Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Digital Dealer webinar. My name is Diane Massey, and I'm Marketing Director at Digital Dealer. Today's webinar is sponsored by Oxlo Systems and is titled Stop Drowning in Numbers. Today's webinar presenters are Richard Ward, VP of Global Partners, and Dan Stockel, VP of Sales at Oxlo Systems. The webinar will run approximately 45 minutes with a question and answer session at the end, but throughout the presentation, please enter any questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. So let's get started, Richard. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Dan and I both like to share some thoughts and capabilities of Oxlo's Group Manager platform and how we think it can help dealership groups gain better control of their data, reduce the complexity of gathering data, and avoid the cutting and copying and pasting and rekeying and the errors associated with collecting that data.
And I'm Dan Stockel, and I appreciate all of you being on this call with us today. And as Richard said, we're going to talk about how Group Manager can bring all your data to one single enterprise level reporting platform. We'll just look forward to questions after. Richard, all you.
Thank you. So I think it would be remiss for me not to make at least a quick little comment about COVID-19. In this era, we're all looking at the demand for visibility, the real-time communications with customers, looking for solutions for touchless services and capabilities, looking at how to reduce expenses, reduce the complexity in our environments, looking for ways to improve and yet conserve at the same time. So part of what we want to do is really talk a little bit more about how a platform like what we've developed with Group Manager can accommodate that. What I'm going to do is give you a quick overview of what Group Manager and the Microsoft platform is that we've constructed this on, and give you an idea of how these pieces all fit together. Effectively, what we've done is we've surrounded some capabilities with Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Office, as well as standalone apps that are out there in dealerships today. Oxlo has for years been implementing a platform we call Integrate Once. It's the ability to communicate to DMSs, to manufacturers, to third-party products, and so on, and collect and move that data around. Much like FedEx moves packages, Oxlo moves data. We do it reliably and securely. And with the implementation that we've done, we have incorporated the ability to collect dealership data and group data into what we call Oxlo Group Manager. Oxlo Group Manager then is the central repository and the one view of data. At this point, what I'd like to do is open it up to a quick little survey.
So, hey, Richard, today, dealers subscribe to multiple software programs that all share a lot of data, but the data is really only into their platforms. Dealers have always been asking, especially in my experience with software for automotive, how can I get this data all into one single location to be able to manage it? And with the Oxlo Group Manager enterprise platform, we can combine that various data and bring it from a DMS so that you can report up onto that. So based on the survey here, Diane, what have people been giving us answers back on? So it's pretty close to what we feel that, 10 to 11, 11 to 30 type of different software programs. So with that, let's show them how we bring it together.
Okay, great. So what we've done is we've, over the last almost 2 years, worked in conjunction with several partners, including Microsoft, to define what's called the common data model. Oxlo focused very clearly in relationship to dealer data and DMS data. The recognition that you guys just gave us of the fact that there are a variety of applications and data sources within your dealerships is an indication across the market. Whether it's your DMS, your F&I solution, inventory products, etc. They're all in their own silos. What we've done is work together to define and create the ability to house that data, creating the keys, the dimensions, and the facilitation of aggregating that data together so that it has the ability then to be shared and worked with throughout the organization. What I'm going to do is walk you through some of what we have accomplished and how we can do that. With Oxlo GroupManager, we've created this ability to look at customers, deals, service, vehicles, parts, and accounting. And using the Oxlo Integrate Once platform, bring that data into this common data model. So whether it's one business that you have or multiple businesses, multiple rooftops, multiple points of sale, we can collect all of that data and have that data available to you. The image on the right-hand side is an example of the type of things that we will be walking through today, where you can aggregate data, whether it's from a lead management system, from CRM, from your inventory, or wherever it might reside through your DMS into this common area for use. So with Group Manager, once we have that data there, we have all of the elements that you need available to be accessed. You can create your own applications. It has seamless integration with other platforms, and using the common data model to leverage this extended capability, all of the applications and environments that you might want to access are available to you. You can gain insights from your data regardless of where it exists. So whether you're looking at a tablet, a phone, a desktop, a laptop, you're able to access your data wherever it is and collect that data together. It's really a critical thing to understand that mobility is a key aspect of what we've implemented. What we've seen in the past couple of months is really a transformation of customer experience. Dealers and customers aren't necessarily meeting face-to-face. More often than not, they're wanting to meet digitally, or they are expecting to meet in that regard. 72% of the customers that have been surveyed have said that improvements to the buying process would motivate them. Digital contracting, delivery options, and service options are those that were ranking high in that regard. And they also desire a seamless experience, something that allows you to focus on the customer, bringing that data together, and those customers which are engaged correctly will retain value to the dealership.
So, hey, Richard, you know, I've had a lot of dealers over the years that invested their own dollars to build their own programs at great expense. You know, how does Group Manager make this work for anyone without having that large investment?
Sure. Let's go through a couple of examples. With Group Manager, since it's built on a platform and has a lot of extended functionality, there are several components that are out-of-the-box capabilities that a dealer can take advantage of. Those would include the ability to have forms, dashboards, alerts, being able to define and develop your reports and have that information shared readily throughout the organization. It is also very easy to customize task and role-based communications and applets that allow you to function very specifically in an area. Let's say it's the service drive or out on the lot, or you want to do a particular inventory throughout your organization of some aspect of inventory that you might be curious about. You can create a small questionnaire applet and distribute that, and that data can be collected back and deposited into that same common data model. For dealers that want to or have the ability to invest or have their own resources to invest more deeply, it is also possible to use this infrastructure to build more immersive and end-to-end solutions on top of it. But everybody can take advantage of it, so you're not limited depending on the way that you want to take advantage of the platform. Now what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through a few examples. I'm going to drop you into the enterprise accounting component that we built the reports off of, and then I'm going to drill into some of the features and capabilities and show reporting and functionality that's based within that. Everything that we do is based on user and role, and everything is combined together so that as an organization, you can segment work efforts. So by drilling and navigating into a role and opening up a workspace, as you can see here, I'm moving into the sales manager role. I then get a workspace that has information about counts. I have KPI data. I have information that is all readily available to me. If I go and select a particular tab off of the list, I get a list of deals pending. I can then further drill into that. So here, let's say I'm going to drill into 2196, look at this particular deal. I want to see what it looks like. I get a record and the ability to drill in as deep as I want to. I can go all the way down to the specific transactions driving that specific report. If I drill back up and I go into the BI connection, I bring up a report. Within the reports, you have dashboards and you have the ability to define KPIs, and the details are all accessible from this single environment. When you hover over something, you get a detail call out. When you click on something, you can drill specifically into it. So I'm drilled down into the data here and can continue to drill down into the data. Every time that I do, if you notice, the rest of the graphs, everything else on the screen adjusts dynamically to what's there. So let's say that even though we're talking about not putting data into a spreadsheet, everybody seems to always want to do that. And they always ask the question of, how do I do it? So if I click on the export button, I get the ability to pull up that data, and then I can export that data by clicking on my export here. And surprise or not surprise, that data appears moments later into a spreadsheet. That's absolutely great, but I do have a warning in relationship to this. We all understand that having access to data is important, but it's also very important for dealerships to have a data loss prevention plan. The car buyers that are coming in are increasingly providing you with information that is PII related data. They are visiting your dealership either online or in person and exchanging that information. If they feel like that information, whether it's their date of birth, phone number, social security number, or banking information, is at risk, they will be afraid to do business. You don't want to end up being a dealer like this one, where they had to report that there was a data breach that affected their customers, that names, addresses, social security numbers, and driver's license information was exposed. That's not a place where anybody wants to be. So with Group Manager, we've implemented this capability for data loss prevention policies and rules. So your own employees are actually the biggest risk factor. They don't think about it. They cut and paste, or they copy something out, or they share information without expecting that there's a repercussion to that. So both using user and role-based security, Group Manager implements an enterprise approach to solve that. And you as a dealership need to implement a data loss prevention policy, and it needs to be specific to your organization that meets the goals of your organization. And I will comment that few applications that you probably have deployed of that list that we were talking about earlier are really having the type of awareness to the security of your dealership that you would expect. They may have a password.
You know, it's interesting, Richard, is that, you know, every of those vendors that we saw in our survey is all, you know, username and password, and you got to keep a lot of those in play. You know, the way that our Oxlo Group Manager and the DLP does this, can you give us some examples, or how does this really make it protecting the dealer and protecting the dealer's information?
Sure. So in addition to gathering data and collecting that data, by putting together for the dealership data loss prevention program, you basically, you as the dealer, establish the rules that DLP enforces. So whether it's PII, PCI, PHI, so personal information, credit information, or health information, that are stored within your dealership. That could be within your HR system, within your F&I system, within whatever. As long as you are using our repository to protect that data, then the concept of doing a screenshot or a cut and paste that exists without a DLP policy, which you can see what happens, or with a DLP policy, you can see what happens, is that it is obfuscated. It is blocked from being able to be sent. If you try to paste it into a spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet, you try pasting it into an email or a text message, it is blocked. You are not able to accomplish that. So it protects you and protects your customers' data from being inadvertently shared. So from here, I've shown you a little bit. We talked a little bit about data. I think it's important to understand how you can protect it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you can do with Group Manager. So within Group Manager, once you are in the report that I showed you a few moments ago, you'll see that at the bottom there's several different tabs. There could be as many tabs across here as is necessary, but based on the user and role. In this case, I have sales, F&I, and inventory. I'm dealing in the sales management group here, and I'm looking at detail related to that. So the tabs can segment the areas of interest. Again, as you hover over something, you get a call out for what that information is. As you click on things or move around the screen, it adjusts dynamically to the information that's contained within it. This allows you to drill in and ask questions visually, as opposed to sorting through piles of numbers and trying to figure out what's the correlation of that information. As I switch to another screen here, you can see that in inventory, I actually have all of the inventory records available to me. I have, in this case, I'm looking at all inventory across the group. And I have some other segmentation over here, years and aging and so on. You can have one store as many stores as you want. You can consolidate that, and you can view or compare data across organization. Likewise, as you want to drill in, you can select to drill in. And in this case, I'm going to drill in on black. And as you can notice, everything relative to black, everything sorted here relative to even the inventory of how many units that I have that are in inventory that are black. It allows you a lot of flexibility about looking at your data visually and not having to be sorting through a lot of numbers. With this, we have another survey question for you.
Yeah, so Richard, you know, when we look at how many daily reports that a dealer generates and sends to executives and managers, how does Oxlo Group Manager separate our reporting and the movement of that data compared to, you know, others that we've seen in the marketplace that's out there?
I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes here to get some survey data.
Yep. I'm thinking that data has got to be pretty high that they send these spreadsheets around.
Well, it could be sent around or printed off or distributed in lots of different ways. So it's curious to see. Okay, let's see the results. Wow. Okay. 6 to 10. Interesting. Okay, this is great data to have as a data point here. What I want to do is I'm going to show you one example about how you can control distribution and access to your data, and then we'll actually show a few more examples of that. Within the Group Manager platform, you set up KPIs that are specific to your dealership. So in this case, I am just looking at a dashboard. This happens to be a sales director dashboard. And within the sales director dashboard, I have more options under this particular KPI. There could be as many KPIs laid out here as you would want. But as you see, we have this one with more options. If I click into more options, I get this ability to do several things with it. So I can manage alerts. I can export to a CSV, as we once did just a few moments ago. But if I click on manage alerts, what I get is this ability then to add an alert rule. I can do this alert rule for every time that it changes. I can do it based on time, always above or always below. I can set thresholds for that, set frequency. I can have it sent to me in email, and so on. So what does that look like? And why does that matter? Well, what it does is it allows you as an organization to not have to print things out or specifically send them on a basis that somebody is requesting it. It's always distributed and delivered, whether it's through email, on a browser, on their phone, a tablet. I even have the ability to distribute that down to my iWatch. So my Apple Watch can give me an alert if something happens. It can even be embedded in an application if you want. What you're seeing on the screen here is an example of an alert that I had subscribed to that comes to me in email. And because I have the rights to view that data, it shows up. And if I click on go to report, it'll actually take me back to that real live report. It's always the same data. Oh, my timer is keeping me honest. It's always the same data. It's always the same result, and it's always secure. So from a dealership perspective, it eliminates that need to distribute all of those independent reports and so on. You can always schedule them and have them automatically done for you, but it takes away the responsibility of individual staff to remember to get it done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a little bit more of what our version 2.0 capabilities are. What you've seen so far is our 1.0 capabilities, and take a look at a couple of the accounting opportunities that are coming up. So using the same Oxlo's Integrate Once platform, again, customers deal service vehicles and parts and accounting, regardless of the number of businesses or the number of rooftops, can come into an accounting platform. And once we go into the accounting platform, there's a lot of functionality that exists. So you can see there's a lot of different roles on the screen here. If I was logged in as a single individual, I would only have the roles or the buttons here showing that would be related to my user and my role. But if I click on the navigation pane here, you can see that there's a lot of functionality within the 2.0 capabilities that we're going to bring to market. The ability to do accounts payable, receivable, so on, are all within this platform. It's a true ERP accounting engine for the group and enterprise. You can see that we have a wide variety of capabilities here, and those would be available to you should you choose to implement those at a later point in time, including all the non-dealership businesses, incorporating consolidated financials, as well as centralized group accounting functions. So for those that might want to do centralized management of expenses, or might want to centralize accounts payable or accounts receivable, that possibility all exists within this platform. So now that I've really covered an awful lot about what Group Manager itself is, I'm sure that you all have seen the collaboration tool recently on television called Microsoft Teams. People all over the world have been using tools like that and tools like Zoom that we are today in order to collaborate and share information. As we've all been challenged recently to see how we can stay connected to our partners, employees, customers, it's critical to find an approach for you and for your dealership that makes sense for you. One way to share that information about the organization, opportunities, vendors, sales, customers, feedback, employee morale, and the management team is a way to communicate and adjust to that functionality. What we've done is work to integrate the platform into the Microsoft Teams platform. So I'm going to give you an example and walk you through some of the capabilities that are there. So within Microsoft Teams, a collaboration tool that also allows you to share information within your organization and outside of your organization, it's just another tab. And by that, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, my same sales, F&I, and inventory, the same reports that you were looking at before. And yet I have my calendar, my ability to make phone calls, my ability to communicate with my organization through accessing to files and information, communicating with my teams, chatting with customers or individuals in the organization, as well as looking at activities are all available to me within this platform. Again, it's just another tab. So whether I want to look at all of my salespeople or pick a particular one, whether I want to drill into my data, it's all available to me no matter where I want to go. I've got that access to that information. So again, sales, F&I, activity, whatever you might want is there. I have the ability to share information or make comments. So I can add comments and share that with my team. I can make an announcement of a sale that's coming down. I can set alerts for team members. I can suggest that they follow up on something. I can even annotate the report and send a picture of that particular drill down that I was looking at to an individual to make comments on.
Hey, Richard, what you're really showing here is how taking modern technology amid a pandemic, but pushing it forward to make better business decisions and using the same data and the same platform. That's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah, not only that, but I've got team members that may or may not be in the same area together, or maybe we want to hold a virtual team meeting and have a conversation. That conversation could be had live where we're looking at all the same reports, we're drilling in together, we're making comments, we're trying to understand how the capabilities of the organization are coming to bear. So everybody is looking at the same thing. But the reality of it is there's really much more to this kind of a collaborative platform. The ability to have phone, chat, video conferencing, and calendar is all there. If I drill into the calendar, for instance, an active link that might be in there for a delivery of a Rogue to Bill Shears is directly embedded into that announcement. If I click on it, I actually can drill in and see the directions and where I need to go. And I can even get a visualization of the street and the location as to where I'm going to meet that customer. You can add tabs for specific applications or other applications and or for websites. So if I wanted to have one for something like KBB or for some other valuation or another application, these can all be embedded in the same place. And my team can communicate together and comment on that, sharing that information. So from here, what I want to do is really wrap up. I want to show you a little bit more about what we've talked about and give you a little bit of a break from me talking and just comment for a minute. With Oxlo GroupManager, you can eliminate looking for your data. You can create a more collaborative and seamless dashboard and a reporting solution that mimics your business. You can leverage and take advantage of the investments that you've made and that we've made and have that data available to you in the common data model. you have an opportunity to reduce workloads and secure your data, which I think is really critical. Centralize areas of work where you can improve the efficiency, reduce errors, and potentially reduce the headcount or the labor that's related to some of that. Besides developing and producing standard reports for group dashboards, you can, in version 2.0, extend to the enterprise all the accounting and functionality that would be employed with that. So bottom line, we believe you can get more done with less effort. You can stop wondering if your data is correct, secure, and available and usable.
Great. Well, thank you, Richard and Dan. We're now in the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please add any questions you might have to the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. And as you're adding those questions, please keep in mind that registration is now open for Digital Dealer in Las Vegas, where you can reconnect with other dealers and also meet industry experts such as Richard and Dan from Oxlo Systems. We actually have quite a few questions already. The very first question, Richard and Dan, do you integrate with payroll companies like ADP?
So integration with a payroll company, we do not have a standard off-the-shelf connector, but the interface to a payroll solution is relatively easy to accomplish with the ability to use automation and the ability to do connectivity between systems. We can accomplish that for you.
Okay, great. The next question is, how easy is it to set up a different view for different departments and users?
Extremely easy. So once the platform is deployed, there's a set of standardized reports and KPIs and so on that come along with it. Adjusting those or creating new ones is something that we walk you through in the initial stages of the deployment. So you have, as an organization, the ability to select different visualizations, picking different KPIs, setting up the things that are most important to you. And each role and each user within the organization can pick from a library of KPIs and a library of report elements and visualizations and actually assemble their own view, their own dashboard. So you're not restricted in relationship to what you can accomplish.
Okay, great. Are you able to set up notifications based on certain rules, like exception reportings? I really like to see exceptions versus having to filter full reports.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, Richard, that's a real good one. That's exactly where we reside.
Yeah, you can absolutely do exception reporting. In addition to that, you can extend the functionality for approvals. So let's say an exception comes up and you want to be alerted to it. Well, not only does that exception come up, but you then have the ability to approve or disapprove an activity that's going on, whether that would be an expense, whether that would be a deal that's configured in an unusual way, or another type of approval for a purchase order or something like that that might come along.
Okay. The next it's more of a comment, but I'd like for you to react to it. The comment is, we like to set up bonus opportunities, and this would be great to set up real results.
Yes, it would. Not only that, but if you set up bonus opportunities and you have somebody that's approached something, you can have other people alerted that their competition within the organization is reaching a goal that they haven't yet gotten to. So you can create some interesting little fun competitions within the organization as well.
Oh, that's perfect.
As well as congratulatories out to individuals and so on. Oh,
that's perfect for dealerships.
Yeah, so, and Richard, that really plays into where the dealer can build their own apps. And that would be an example of one, right? Where we're moving towards a target and how are we getting there? And they can build their own app and send it out to their employees.
Sure, they can track to see how they're doing against those results and setting a competition in order to get there. They could have that deployed out to their phones or their tablets or whatever, and wherever they are, they can be checking to see how am I doing if there's a a challenge for some kind of a deal this weekend for Memorial Day, or last weekend rather, how am I doing towards that goal?
No, that's awesome. How long does it take to implement something like this?
Well, generally, it takes approximately 6 weeks from beginning to end to work through the logistics and so on. Of course, there's always a couple of weeks before that we're having conversations about the specific structure of your organization and your deal, your dealership, so that we understand what's going on there. But we work together to define the standards for your chart of accounts, for your organization, the way that you're structured. We look at the way that the information is being deployed within your organization today. And then we work towards a plan to define something that specifically meets your group's goals.
Okay. We have more questions. Does the software integrate with CDK on the service end? For example, if an employee makes an appointment through CDK/ADP, does it push through into your software? Would the closed repair order data hit a report run through your program?
So I don't really want to make an announcement today.
Okay.
But we have signed up, and we are a part of the Fortellis platform partnership, and we are working towards the goal of having accessibility to a wide variety of functionality there. If you happen to go to that Fortellis website yourself and look at the APIs that are available there, you'll have a pretty good idea and understanding about what is currently published and available. I am answering this as indirectly as I can. So I think from the side of, can we do it? Yes. Is it deployed today? No. Do we want to do it? Yes. Then I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And then I think this is probably around the same topic, DMS Automate.
So Automate and others, we've had some conversations with. We have no specific announcements to make with any of those third parties, but I suspect that there would be no restrictions in order to accommodate the integration of others.
Okay. There was someone that asked about pricing structure. I didn't know, do you want to handle that as a kind of an overall question, or would you rather follow up with him directly?
I'd rather follow up directly, because it really depends on the size and scope and the deployment requirements that you have. It's difficult to just call out a specific.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So
yeah, and I appreciate those questions, and yeah, it's not a one size fits all type of pricing structure. So
okay. And like most of us, I already have a subscription to Microsoft Office. How does that work?
Yeah. So if you already have a subscription to Microsoft Office, your organization is already connected on Microsoft's Active Directory. So we would basically federate with you, and the platform then will incorporate in your users and your distribution of those users, and you can manage then users that you add or take away, and that can be inherited into the digital loss protection or prevention category that we have, as well as it puts you in charge of managing your organization structure from that perspective. And you can incorporate all the capabilities that we just talked about into your platform. We do not require you moving to our platform in order to accomplish that.
Okay. That's some of the best questions we've ever had for a webinar. So thank you all for attending today's webinar, and thank you to Richard and Dan, and thank you Oxlo Systems for sponsoring today's presentation. Later on today, all attendees will receive an email with a link to the recording so you can watch it again or share it with your fellow colleagues at your dealership, a request for your feedback, and a link for future Digital Dealer webinars. We look forward to seeing you next time. And oh, wait, one more question. Sorry.
One more question.
Yeah, the one more question, but it's really a comment on the CDK.
Right.
In my experience in dealing with CRM vendors on the service side, they will never bend on integration. But if you could secure that, it would be awesome. And he said, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's not a question, it's just a comment. But
That's right. But thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that.
yeah, that's very, very insightful. But thank you. And thank you all. And thank you again, Richard and Dan. It was a great webinar. And
Thank
everyone
you.
have a good day and be safe.
Thank
Be
you,
safe.
guys.